And we're live. Hi, everyone. My name is Rob Canzaneri, and I'm the Data Architecture Virtual Leader. I'd like to welcome everyone online today to see Eric give a presentation on what's new in SQL Server. Some important things I want to pass to y'all is this webinar is being recorded. Y'all can go to sqlpass.org and view it there. You can also see it on my blog at www.sqltigers.com. Let's see. Pass has a lot of virtual chapters, and here's the virtual chapter list. And if you're interested in any particular topic, they always have great webinars, and this is where you go. You go to sqlpass.org/virtual chapters. Upcoming virtual chapter meetings. You can see, well, there's a whole bunch coming up. There's some earlier in the month, but there's a virtualization one coming up with Sean Myers. Upcoming SQL Saturdays, they're great to go to. Look, Atlanta's going to have one in January the 9th. So if you're in Atlanta, Nashville, Austin, log into sqlsaturday.com and sign up. And it's a great thing. I mean, a lot of learning, a lot of free opportunity. Pass also, if you want to join a local chapter, here's the link here to get into the local chapters. And finally, here's the link if you want to volunteer for Pass. It's just volunteer.sqlpass.org. So with that, I'm going to change over to Eric. Here we go, Eric.
Hey.
And I want to thank Eric for volunteering and presenting today on SQL Server, what's new in 2016. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Eric. If there's questions, we can get them answered, during the webinar. And if you want to break, that's fine. And, however you want to handle it's fine.
Okay. Well, again, my name is Eric Peterson, and I am a longtime DBA. I have been, I'm trying to get my slideshow to advance here. Let's page down. There we go. I've been in the database world for over 30 years. A lot of the DBAs I work with say I'm older than dirt, but really I've just been playing around with this for a long time. I was lucky back in college to have a database class before they did things, and it sort of fast-tracked me into this area. I spent 10 years with Sybase as their lead professional services architect. 22 years with Microsoft SQL Server, back when it was Sybase, now Microsoft. Done all sorts of things with databases, from programming COBOL to C++, C#. I was on the ODBC beta team. And if anyone wants to give me a shout or ask a question afterward, my email is eric.peterson@bcdtravel.com. Don't hesitate to send something over. SQL Server 2016. I'm really excited about this release. The ability for for what they have done in comparison to other releases. 2012, you had one or two big features like always on. 2014, it was in memory. 2016, they have a whole bunch of new stuff in here. If you want to download this now, you can. You can go to Microsoft, look for the CTP 2016. You can download it. You can also download some of the previous versions, or if you have some previous versions, and I'll talk about some differences in there. There's going to be one or two more releases according to the MVPs who are under non-disclosure and can't tell me anything more than that, and more features than what I'm going to present here. Now, so there are some features with 2016 that you'll need to know about. It only works on Windows Server 2012 Plus or Windows 8 Plus. But there's a bonus. The SQL Server Management Studio is a standalone install, so kind of balances things out with that. Like I said, more releases are going to have a lot more features. The official release is due out Q1 2016. According to my MVPs, they wouldn't give me a date, but what they did say was the past 2 releases have been released April 1st of the year that they're named for 2014, 2012. So they're kind of, so it's sort of hint, it might be around that time frame. But I can't guarantee that at this point. All right, lots of new features out here to talk about. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the features, and then I'm actually going to go into 2016. I'm actually going to show you how to use many of these things. There's a lot of setup changes, and I want to highlight something here, is what I'm showing you is the 2016 SQL Server enhancements. I'm not looking at enhancements to integration services, analysis services, reporting services, which there are a ton there. But really what I'm covering is the DBA-ish 2016 SQL Server. There's some setup changes, which I'll cover with you in a few seconds. Temporal data tables, which is really cool. Masking of columns, row-level security, always encrypted, stretch database, always-on enhancements, in-memory enhancements, JSON support, polybase. There's just a ton of stuff out here. You can see why I'm so excited about this. And, you know, it's been a lot of fun playing with it. Now, my current job, I am an architect. And part of my job is I get paid to go in and research new releases, find out what features we can use as soon as it comes out. So I've been playing around with this and working with my development teams to present some of these new features, and we're hoping it gets out on the April 1st time frame because they have some things ready to go. SQL Server setup changes, trace flag 118, which switches allocations in tempdb from single page at a time for the first 8 pages. A lot of people have this turned on across the board. Well, this is implemented by default in SQL Server. The next one also involves tempdb. And for years, as you remember, the tempdb, they would recommend that for each CPU you have, or maybe CPU -1, to create a tempdb for you. The SQL Server does this automatically. So if you go out there and build your tempdb, or when you go look at your tempdb, you're going to have a separate file for each of the tempdbs in the configuration. You know, why don't I open up something I can actually show you some of that right now. I'm going to flip over to my remote box here. And give me a few seconds to get things going. All right, and you can see all the stuff. 2000 SQL Server 2016 CTP Management Studio. By the way, I'm going to have examples out here, which I'm going to open up. If you send me an email, I'm more than willing to share these with you. If you want, I'll work with Rob, and we can post them out on the site too, so you can download the code I have. But what we have here is the databases, and if I look at the system database, tempdb, properties, by default, when I installed this, you know, I've got multiple files out here, tempdb1, tempdb2. And you don't have to do that by default anymore. It's just automatically done for you. All right, so of course you want to do that, which I haven't done. The next thing that I'm going to go into are temporal tables. Temporal tables are also known as system version tables, or you might just refer to them as history tables. You know, if you notice on here, I pulled this clock out of Microsoft Clip Art, and instead of going to 12, it goes to 13. I'm going to say this is, you know, like turning your dial up to 13 when it comes to timestamps, because for every row you put in a system version table, it's going to take a row and put it out into a secondary row or table for you. It's a mirrored historical table, which has to be in the same database. There's some things you've got to do, like have a primary key, and it's created the same time a primary table is defined, or you can alter an existing table. And I'm going to show you how to do both of those things. What you need to do is you need to add in additional 2 date-time columns, one for insert and one for update. Your update is automatically has, or your end time in there is going to automatically have a 999-1231, and there won't be anything in history. But as soon as you do an update, it will put a record into history. Now, you can't delete a historical table from your system, but there are some features you can do. For example, if you update your primary key, it sort of like deletes that row because you don't have any history back to your original one. There are some SQL extensions out here, and I'll go through those, and I'll give you examples of those, that allows your insights into your historical data. So you can say select everything from whatever table you have, but you can also, just going in there and say, select from, using the new syntax of as of, from to, between, or contained in, and these new features allow you some flexibility. But the neat thing is you only query against the primary table. It goes in and figures out what history is going to be returned back based on the syntax here. All right. So if you go in here and say, what I did is just took my hotel table, I added a constraint to it, I altered the table, adding a period for system time, which is important for start date or for start and end, and gave it all these standard things, and then altered the table. And what you do is you just set versioning on, and at that point it's live. Which the real bonus of this is you can take an existing system where they want history and turn it on, because the following statement, you just turn it off. All right, so here, I'm going to go back up on this. Let's go back over and let's actually look at some real examples with this. All right, so I'm going to go down to my temporal database and open up a query here. Temporal table examples. All right, so what I did was create the database, moved in. What I also did is I created a schema called history, so that I could sort of keep everything a little bit separate. And so I could keep everything separate and not change any of my existing security. Now, if I go out here and look at my existing hotel table, remember I'm in the travel industry, so that we'll execute that, and it's going to return a whole bunch of things. It's going to return back all of my data that's out here. Now, if I go in and I add the constraint, it should already be done, which it is. We'll keep going down here. Looking at these things, this should also say it already exists. And we'll go down to the actual tables themselves. So what I did is I went through and I updated my hotels and changed some of the names of the hotels, to change it from the actual property name to a tent in the backyard and rooms etc. And here's actually how you can get data back. So if I look at everything in my history table, all right, it tells me all the rows that have been changed. I can also go out and do this. This would be really old school of how to join everything together. It's going to tell you for a specific property all of the things. But we don't want to do old school. What we want to do is actually look at the new extensions out here. So, so here's one of what was the property as of a specific date. And it's going to return that back. I can do what is it, and if you do a get date, it's going to give you the current row. I got a syntax error in there. But it's really neat to look at all these extensions in here. Now, there's from system times, there's between, so let's look at both of these. There's contained in. Now, contained in means it has to have been modified during this period, which will tell you all the modifications during that period. And, of course, I don't have it set right. But, you can go out there and, change it and do it, and it's all automatic for you. You don't have to, as soon as you turn the versioning on, it creates the table. It does everything you need to do, which is a pretty neat feature. All right, we'll flip back to the presentation here. And as of is easy enough to figure out. From and between, we already looked at that one. It shows you everything within the range. Contained in are records that were opened and closed in the time period, which means they've been modified. All right, and on to the next topic, dynamic data masking. How many, I would say how many people have the ability to go out there and modify the database so that it prevents access to sensitive information without making code changes? Well, dynamic data masking can do that. I'm going to give you some examples here. Now, this is really good for modifying your application. It's bad from the perspective of you can get around it, because the masking rules are applied as part of the query results. And you shouldn't have to modify those queries. But if you change the data type of that query, or if you merge it with something else, it won't mask things. So it's not secure. So you can't use this for your PCI compliance, but this can be part of the tool set. As you are getting everything encrypted, you can set your formats down to how you want to mask it. Earlier, this setup here, where I say setup requires DVC trace on 209, actually they fixed this in CTP 1 and 2. If you turn this on in CTP 3, data masking all of a sudden doesn't work, which is kind of funny. But before, if you've got CTP 1 or 2, you have to run the DVC trace on command, and it will not work after it reboots. So you'll have to reapply it after a reboot. The masking, the default masking for a column, so if it's a numeric column, it'll automatically put all zeros out there. A date time will be changed to 200101 at midnight, and a string is XXX. They've got some predefined formats for emails, so a begin and followed by the .com or extension on the end, and or you can use one defined. For example, this is similar to a credit card number, and you can define how you want it to look. So let's see how they do some of that stuff. Basically, you take an existing table and you alter the column. So I've got a column here called a table, My Customers. I'm changing their maximum purchase amount. And instead of changing the data type like you normally would, you say add masked, and that's really where the magic is. And then you have to set up a function. So the function's a default, and it will go through. Now, if you're doing this, I'm showing here's one for a number, a date, and a character. Let's go down to the next ones. Here's how you do an email, or if you do a partial, and you define what your partial is. So there, let's go back up on that. So this is saying it's going to X out your first 12, and it's going to leave the last 4. All right, and I put in some of my fellow DBAs here, and here's what I get with the select asterisk. We'll page down here. This is what it looks like when you actually mask the data. So I masked the first name. I masked the credit card information. I masked the amount, the email, and the create date as it goes through. So let's actually take a look at how this works. All right, we'll flip over here. We're going to do open up a new query. Masking columns. All right. So we'll execute that. We're going to go in, and I've already created the database. And let's see if I already have something. And if you do go set this up, all the values are there to set everything up. So let's look at what we have currently set up. Okay, so right now it looks like the table's wide open. What I want to do in here is give you an example of the this. And what you can do is change who actually has the ability to see certain things in the rows. So I'm at a hotel or a travel-based company, so my reservation agents can't always see everything. Let's go in here, and I'm going to execute these 3 things. We'll go down. We'll do the partial data masking on those columns. And let's look at what changed with the in here. Now if I do everything select asterisk, all right, I'm still able to see everything. Now if I do it as a reservation agent, notice. All right, so you can set this up so that specific types of people or functions can go through and look at the data or only see specific things that you want them to see. And I think this is a really neat feature. Now, here's where I say it's not very secure. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cast first name, which you can see was encrypted down here. I'm going to execute this as the res agent again. And boom. If you notice, that should have shown me it unmasked. Let's go down here. Go on to the next one. Let's see what happens with that. Okay. All right. Well, they may have fixed that. That's the fun of going through the different things. But if you change the, usually if you change the type on the first name, in the past it would do it. So that might be a new feature that they have with that. You can also, here's another thing, is even if the value is masked, you can go out there and search on specific types of things. So really where this was going out there and saying where the credit card number equals, et cetera, all the way through, even though they can't see it, you can go in and search for it. So again, it's not this, and then what you can do is you can go in here and grant unmasked to the reservation agent, and then let's watch what happens up here. So again, this is a neat feature. There you go. They can see everything, and you can all right. So anyways, this is how you do the everything with the masking. Let's go back to the presentation. Okay, row-level security, another neat feature in here. The ability to restrict data based on a data identifier. This applies to each row. It's very secure. I haven't been able to break this, unlike the masking, which is not nearly as secure. And the access restriction is located in the database tier as opposed to the query itself. Now, there's some good and there's some bad because this can slow things down a little bit. But what you do is you basically set up a rule. For example, you can only update your own thing. So if you add a login to someone's personnel file, you can then grant them access to personnel, but the only thing they're going to be able to see when they do a select asterisk is their information. They'd be able to go in and update their own rows all by themselves, but that's the only one they would be able to see. All right, and you do this as you define a security policy through a function. So you create a function, and then you bind it. Now, if you want, as you're going through, or you can, as you go through and put the security policies in, this is something, here, I'm going to go back up. All right, for the final thing here, where I've got or username equals DBO, or your administrative ID, you can still allow the DBA access to all the information unencrypted by putting that username equals DBO piece into it. So this is something to check as you go through your security to make sure someone isn't creating the policies where they've got a backdoor into the data. Something to look at as you're going through. So you create your security policy, and the security policy maps the data to the table. And so let's go actually look at some examples of how to do this. Okay. All right, row-level security example. Buzz in and do that. Execute. Great. All right, so I've got a table out here, sales. I put some data in it, but really, it worked out better looking at some of my big hotel data. And here you can see I've set it up so that the the sales rep can see anything with his username, or the username equals manager, so the manager can look at everything. And it all works as you go through this. So let's go out here and let's look at everything in sales. Of course, I'm a DBA, so I don't get to see anything because I wasn't in the policy. We'll look at sales 1, and execute it, and sales rep 1 gets to see all his values. And you can apply things as you go. And all the information's out there. Sales 2. Notice that even though I didn't have a where clause up here, he's limited to only the rows he's allowed to use. So sales 2 wasn't impacted. Now sales manager, of course, can see everything based on the function, which is pretty neat. Now I actually did some examples here with my hotel data, and I thought it would be neat if Holiday Inn and Hilton and Wyndham and Motel 6, because we spend a lot of time updating hotels. They change franchises, they adjust the addresses, they rename the hotels or rebrand the hotels. And so we spend a lot of time with that. So if my end users could go out here and update the hotel table, it would be pretty neat. So what I did is I granted, set up the users for all my hotel users, granted select on everything, created the functions in here to go through. And let's actually look at this. So this is actually real data going in, and if you notice that as it goes through, what I'm going to base this on is the first one is selecting everything from hotel, which doesn't have anything on. Now down here, the one below that, let me see if I can pull it up. I'm on a different. Okay, let's just do the. Let's look at this. Do it this way. On a different computer for the presentation, so this should only show me. You notice right here, going against my secure hotel table, they only can see things from their group. Again, if I go down here and I look at this as a as travel click, they only can see everything with theirs. And boom, that works. It's a pretty neat feature, and I know we're going to be using it as soon as it comes out for many different things that people have the ability to update, and they only are allowed to update certain types of things. Okay, always encrypted. All right, it lets the developers encrypt and decrypt in the application, all right, through the functionality in ADO.NET. Of course, this is because all of us DBAs are considered untrustworthy. But here's the advantage: is the keys are never given to SQL Server. So, when they come through and do the auditing on the databases, hey, we're out of the loop if you go this route. They can come through and they can go through and query, and it's going to be really, really secure. Now, a lot of people state, well, the reason for doing this is the SQL Server is considered untrusted and DBAs are untrustworthy. I look at this as if you are hosting with Amazon or Azure or any of off-site, where someone else may have access to your data. Well, if it's encrypted always, hey, then we're in the clear. We do not have to worry about a data breach unless they can get into the application as well. Basically, what happens is the security admin generates a key, the column encryption key, and then there's a master key. You encrypt the column key and store it on the application side. The certificate is stored within the database, and the DBA uploads everything, and it all works. Right? Now, it's interesting because when you do it, you now have an additional types of thing. You now have something new in your management studio, which is your always encrypted keys, so you can actually see where they are. in your system. There's two types of encrypted. There's randomized and there's deterministic. If you go randomized, you'll encrypt the same value and it'll encrypt the value twice. So you get two different values. It will be 100% random all the way through. This is good if you're not doing any joins or group bys on that data. But if you want to have something where you can join on, for example, a social security number might be a key on 2 or 3 tables, particularly if you're in the medical field or whatever, you might need something that does that, or human resources. You can encrypt with deterministic encryption, which will encrypt the same value for the same way multiple ways. So you always get the same encrypted value for the same data. It's less secure, but it allows you to do equality operations. By less secure, if someone goes out there and is able to figure out one of your keys, they can do a search of where does it exist based on the encrypted value all the way through. Now, how do you set it up as you go through? And you can see in here there's a little bit of extra syntax. Page up here. There's a little bit of extra syntax that it goes through, but what it does is it encrypts, in this example, the birth date and social security number, and assumes that just because you have somebody's name, you can't do anything more with it than that. Okay. The next one is stretch database. This is kind of an interesting one. It creates a second database that's hosted in Microsoft Azure. You mark the table as stretch, and SQL Server will automatically move its data into the cloud, which is pretty cool. But remember, it's going to be stored in both places, so it's a little bit slower. Now, I would love to give you an example of this, but being in the office today, they do not allow me to stretch my databases past the firewall. It is very specific. You've got to go in and really give it some specific firewall type things, and mine are all blocked because they don't want me stretching my database across into the cloud or potentially moving all my data out into the cloud. So that's something from a security thing you may want to check into. 2 stretch modes here. Archive table, which is move all the data into the cloud, or archive row, and it's you determine which rows actually go out into the cloud. There's several, like many initial releases, there's several column types that aren't supported. Hierarchy, geometry, XML, file stream, timestamp. There are certain features that are not supported: computed columns, check constraints, foreign key constraints, XML. And from what I was hearing at the past conference, some of these things they are getting or starting to get around because, well, people need them. And, you know, people need foreign keys and things like that. So, you know, these are things that you're going to have to look at. But remember, if you are going to implement something that needs to check something that may be in the cloud, your response times may be a lot slower. So, you know, you do have advantages and disadvantages of the entire architecture. Next feature, always on. This is something that we use quite a bit. We have a 20 terabyte database that is difficult to back up, to say the least. And we needed the ability to have everything on. Now, we implemented right in 2012, and there were some features in there that were a little bit harder to manage. The group managed service accounts, this is something that is really good. The load balancing is huge, something to do. Improved transactional support performance is good. A lot of things, that have been enhanced all the way through. And this is, typical Microsoft because, they did the same thing for in-memory. And in 2014, if you were using in-memory enhancements, there were certain size restrictions. There were certain things you couldn't do. In particular, if you had an in-memory stored procedure, you had to drop and recreate. Well, now you can alter that procedure as it goes through. You can alter the table. You can do all sorts of neat things in there, in particular supporting foreign keys, check constraints, parallelism, outer joins, which were not supported in 2014. You can use the Management Studio Table Designer, all sorts of new features out there. So like I said, SQL Server is just, they have been just piling on the new features and things that you can do. And after that first release, they're getting in and they're getting additional features to make it as usable as possible. Alter Index is now supported huge on Alter Index. Before you had to really go in and almost drop the table. Performance improvements, this bottom thing down here. Within SQL Server 2014, they were claiming of 10 times performance improvements for in-memory. 2016, they're claiming 35 times performance improvement. Now, the in-memory was referred to as hackathon or 100 because they were shooting for 100 times performance improvement. Hopefully, in the next release, 2018, they will jump. They jump from 10 to 35, which is a 3.5 times performance improvement. If they go to 3.5 times here, they'll be over 100 and make that change. JSON support. It's a new extension for JSON. I always call it JSON, and I know a lot of other people do. It's real easy to convert your results and your SQL very quickly into JSON by just going in and entering it in. So you go over here, you're declaring a variable, you're setting it equal to a select statement, and it's for JSON path. So you have a little bit of an extension to your SQL as well. But look at your results down here. Everything comes out in that. So for those people who are using JSON, I think it's a lot more friendly than some of the XML extensions that were put in here. Polybase. This is something that's going in, and I think that as 2016 gets closer to going in and working, they're going to have some really neat examples out there of how to do this. Now, I haven't implemented any examples with this yet, but Polybase allows you to use T-SQL statements to access Hadoop, Azure, and there's all sorts of other formats that are on the way. But the really cool thing is if you have a database that is spread across multiple servers, in Hortonworks, that's cool. You can use just your standard T-SQL statements and go out and go after it. It's truly optimized for data warehousing workloads, and it's intended to get that result against multiple queries very quickly. All right. There is, as part of your setup here, there's the ability to set up the Polybase. You got to go in there and automatically check it out as part of the install. This isn't as simple as some of the other ones where you just alter something and it's there. You have to actually go in and do this as part of the install. You've got to have some types of things. I don't have Oracle installed at my organization, so we weren't able to go in here and test it and put it in. All right, now's the time for questions. We officially have 10 minutes on the hour, but I could go longer than that. Rob, how do we open this up to questions for anybody?
Okay. So basically, on your organization screen, first go to webinar. There's a little panel that says questions. Can you see that one?
I can see that.
Great, and you're going to see a whole list of questions there. One is like greetings from St. Petersburg, Florida. So I'll answer the easy one. Will the slides be available? Yes. We're going to have the whole presentation. Well, I don't know about the slides, but we'll have the whole presentation. It's recorded, and the demos. I'll get them from Eric and post them at the website for SQL, SQL Pass.
Yeah, and I'll put. I will give you the everything that I have shown in my examples from and it goes through the table setup. Most of them don't have a database set up as part of it. I figure you can all handle that. But I'll go through the table setup, the data setup, and going in there. The hotel data that I was showing you, well, that's my data, and I can't send that out. But I do have smaller tables with the examples.
Great. All right, and then we just start going down the line here. You see them on the left is like, is there a OS limitation, or are they just for the CTPs or not official release? So they're asking about the CTP release. Is
okay.
OS limitations.
All right. So yes, slides will be available. Session recording available. Yes. OS limitations. The OS limitations, I believe they are going to push that moving forward. Now, with that said, they haven't released it yet. You are probably going to have a Windows 10 or a Windows Server in there. Needless to say, I would have 2016 on my laptop, but I'm running Windows 2007. So it's I can't do that. Remember also that they only go back 3 releases. So you're going to be able to support 2014, 2012, and 2008. Your 2005 sort of drops off when you try to work with anything on it in here as well. All right?
All right, let's see.
What kind of overhead does the temporal tables have? And if so, if we have a table with lots of inserts, I would imagine it's not bad. Yeah, no, that's exactly correct. You're going to, if you're doing an update or a delete, you're going to incur an extra I/O. If you're doing a delete, you may actually incur, and the updates, you may actually physically incur 2 I/Os because it's going to have to read and then write into the table. It's going to really depend on the system and the back-end storage you have, I would think, if you're looking for an exact number on it. Test it. But inserts, well, there's no, if you have an insert type system that you only want to track a few changes here and there, then it's going to work great. All right, next question. How is this feature different from current SQL CDC change control feature? It looks like they handle the same thing. We've actually done some benchmarks. We've got some very, very heavy I/O tables. We do travel for 100,000 people a week, and our tables, anytime we change any of our table records, we have to do history on that and figure out, the agent and everything. So we've done a lot of things. The change data control was slower than setting up a trigger on those tables. So I'm assuming that the change data control or the trigger and this is about the same. But I can't tell you an exact number on that. Do we know if temporal tables extensions will be included in standard edition? I don't know. You could go out and research that and put out a note to the whole group. We'll have to see. At this point, we're just looking at the community technology previews. But if you know of an MVP and can talk to them, they've been exposed to a lot more than we have, and they may be able to answer that for you. History, table name. So is history a system schema? No, history will be part of your regular schema unless you decide to create a new one like I did. If you go out there and you just add the history to the table, when it creates the new table automatically for you, it will create it with a DBO prefix on it. I put mine all in a history table just to say I could do it. Can you install SQL Server CTP on Windows 7? The answer is no. How do backups and restores work with the new encryption methods? Well, the backups and restores that I've done have all worked, so I assume that they just work the same way as they do in your other system. Now, what I haven't tried is an encrypted backup with an encrypted column, or here we have everything encrypted using our IDERA backup software. I don't know if there's a double encryption that would incur, or if it's compatible. That's something I haven't tested yet. But that's a good question. Okay, how do backups and restores work with the stretch database? That is a great question, and I don't know the answer to that. Well, I need to write that one down and check it out. Like I said, here we've got everything with Azure backed up.
I can email you the list of questions, and
okay.
That way you don't have to write them down after the webinar.
Oh, that would be great.
And if you can put on the blog and your blog what we find for everyone, to help answer some of these questions that we don't know,
All right. The next question up is, what is bucket count? All right. I can actually go back to my presentation here and show you where we saw that. All right. Bucket count is used in-memory tables, and it basically looks at the, here it is, bucket count. It's used for in-memory tables, and it's basically it says how many rows you're going to have out there. So you want to have your bucket count higher than your unique number of values for an in-memory table. And we're talking about doing a full in-memory table presentation or sometime next year as well. So keep your eye out on the forum, and we'll be doing that one sometime later sometime in 2016. Okay, encrypted columns. Can you index on them? Interesting. I would assume you can. I'm sure you would want to index on only certain types of columns. Let's see in here, if you're going to do your if you're going to do deterministic, I would say index it, because it's going to allow you to go directly there. If it's randomized, I don't know if I'd index as much, but that's actually something very good to test out. I only have quick sample data here. I don't have anything that would really show something to be in there. What's your recommendation on when to use temporal tables? Well, as soon as they are available, we're going to use them in our customer profiles because it's done automatically, and from what I can see, it's fast as, if not faster than triggers. So that is an OLTP system. Granted, it's mostly insert, but like I said, we have 100,000 people traveling around the world 24 hours a day, and we're able to implement our trigger-based system, taking care of the history. So I think this would work just as well, if not better, than that. How historical tables works? Will it use a trigger? No. Once you set everything up, if you have set up a trigger in the past, it's going to work very similar to that, but you don't have to set up the trigger and you don't have to set up the alternate table. It does everything for you automatically. How different or useful is temporal tables from CDC? All right, we've already talked about that one. Are there any T-SQL changes or new features in 2016? Well, there's several to deal with the new things, the masking and the encryption at the row level. There are a few that I've seen out there that they're kind of minor. It's not anything major, but it's couple of new functions that we've seen, and I will need to add that to my presentation. Can you provide a link for the recording, please? And Rob has already answered that. Do we know which one of these features are available on which SQL Server versions? These features are only available on 2016. They're a little bit different between the CTP 1, 2, and 3, and there's going to be a lot more coming in CTP 4. Okay, how is temporal tables different from current SQL Server CDP? Looks like they handle the same thing. Again, the answer is yes. Are there any performance issues with always encrypted? I haven't seen any as of yet. But it's always possible. Okay. Sorry, I meant additions versus. I'm not sure if they've defined which edition is going to get which feature yet. Any features moving out? I'm considering you're saying for that, and update the question if I'm not answering this correctly. Any features for moving out, which I'm assuming you're meaning are being deprecated as SQL Server rolls up. The big thing that's going to be deprecated is if you still have 2005 databases out there.
That's it. You hit them all. Thank you, Eric.
Well, thank you for everyone. Like I said, if you want to send me an email, let me go way back up to the top. I guess I should have put this on the, if you want to send me a email, you're welcome to send me one directly, and I can pass things on to you, or we can, we'll have everything within the week put up on the virtual chapter site.
Yeah, we're going to post everything there, and Eric has offered to come back next year and give an in-memory database presentation. So thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I really want to thank everyone for taking time out today. We had about 197 people show up today, and that's wonderful. Great topic. And just a recap for anyone that didn't hear this. The presentation is recorded. It will be at SQLpass.org, or you can go to my blog, SQLtigers.com. Eric's going to give me the samples. I'll post them there. And I just want to thank everyone for coming again. I'm going to shut down the presentation again. And Eric, thank you for coming. It was a great presentation.
You're welcome. And if indeed, from what the MVPs are saying, there's a whole bunch more features, we may be doing this presentation again in May or June with all of the finalized features in and showing the additional ones that haven't been released yet.
Okay.
So again, thank you.
That's awesome. That's great. Our next presentation, we're going to have Grant come back and give another presentation on that's next week. So I hope to see everyone there. And I hope everybody has a great afternoon. Eric, talk to you soon, okay?
Thanks a lot.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye now.